I lived alone in a small third-floor apartment, and that December I was spending most nights inside after work, decorating for Christmas. It felt normal and quiet, the kind of routine you stop noticing, especially when your biggest concern is what to watch while untangling lights by myself nightly. I worked an office job with normal hours, so evenings were predictable and calm, which is why the knock caught me off guard. It was early, not even dark yet, and I assumed it was a neighbor or someone at the wrong door asking directions or selling something nearby today. I remember checking my phone first, expecting a text or missed call, but there was nothing. When I opened the door, nobody was there, just the hallway and the faint smell of pine from other apartments decorated nearby with lights and wreaths lining doors on every floor that night, quietly. I brushed it off and went back inside, putting a few wrapped gifts under the tree and turning on music. About 10 minutes later, there was another knock, louder this time, slow and deliberate, like whoever was there knew I was listening from inside my quiet living room alone then. This time I asked who it was through the door, feeling a little embarrassed by how nervous I sounded. A man answered calmly, saying he was from the building, and that he needed to check something related to holiday safety regulations inside my unit quickly, before leaving tonight, please, sir. I hadn't gotten any notices about inspections, but I cracked the door anyway, keeping the chain on. He stood close, looking past me into the apartment, and smiled when he asked if the gifts under my tree were for family or friends visiting soon during Christmas week alone tonight here. That caught me off guard because I hadn't mentioned the tree at all. I asked how he knew about the gifts, and he laughed quietly, saying you can usually tell by the shapes, then glanced down the hallway behind him like he was checking for someone approaching us slowly nearby. I told him I wasn't comfortable letting anyone in without notice, and that I'd contact management myself. His expression changed immediately, and he said my full name out loud, asking if the blue box under the tree was for my sister who lived across town and visited last year once. I hadn't told anyone I was decorating that night, and the gifts weren't visible from the hallway. My heart started racing as I closed the door, and he knocked again instantly, harder now, like he knew exactly what scared me and how long I would hesitate before calling for help. I backed away into my living room, staring at the door as my phone buzzed in my hand. A text came through from an unknown number, and it listed every single gift under my tree, one by one, ending with the one I hadn't wrapped yet hidden behind the couch. My phone felt heavier than it should have, like the message itself had weight. I reread it 3 times, hoping I'd misunderstood, but every detail was right down to the cheap gift bag I planned to reuse. I stood frozen, listening to the hallway outside my door. The knocking stopped, replaced by slow footsteps that moved away, then paused, then came back again like he was deciding something. I locked the deadbolt and pushed a chair under the handle, telling myself I was overreacting. People post their lives online all the time, and maybe I'd shared more than I realized without thinking about it. Still, I walked through the apartment, checking every window and door. Everything was locked, nothing disturbed, but the feeling that someone had already been inside wouldn't leave my head. Another text came through while I was standing in the bedroom. It asked if I always slept with the door closed or if that was just when I felt nervous. I called the building's emergency number, my voice shaking as I explained what happened. They told me no inspections were scheduled and advised me to call the police if the person returned. I didn't hang up right away, keeping the line open while I turned off the lights. That's when I heard something soft from the living room, like paper shifting slightly. I stood there, holding my breath, staring into the dark hallway. The sound came again, unmistakably from under the Christmas tree. I crept forward and saw one of the presents had been moved. The blue box he mentioned was no longer centered, tilted slightly, as if someone had picked it up and put it back wrong. I backed away slowly, every nerve screaming at me to leave. Before I could reach the bedroom, my phone buzzed again with a single message saying you forgot to lock the balcony. My heart dropped because I never used the balcony in winter. The sliding door was across the living room, hidden behind the tree and curtains I hadn't opened in weeks. I heard the faint click of glass shifting behind me. Not breaking, not forced, just the sound of a door being slid open carefully by someone who didn't want to rush. I ran into the bedroom and locked the door, pressing myself against it. From the other side, I heard slow footsteps moving through my apartment, stopping occasionally like he was taking his time. He spoke once, quietly, using my name like we were friends. He said he just wanted to make sure I got everything I asked for this Christmas. Something brushed against the bedroom door, light and deliberate. Then his voice came closer, and he asked if I wanted him to start with the gifts or the lights. I stayed silent, afraid any sound would give him permission to come closer. My phone was still in my hand, and I realized I'd never actually called the police like I told myself I would. The footsteps moved away from the bedroom, slow and unhurried. I listened as drawers opened, cabinet doors shifted, and wrapping paper crinkled softly in the living room. Another text came through while I stood there shaking. It said he didn't mean to scare me, and that he'd waited a long time for this moment. I cracked the bedroom door just enough to see the hallway. The Christmas lights were still on, glowing softly, but the tree was gone. I stepped out slowly, my chest tight, scanning every corner. The tree had been dragged into the kitchen, ornaments scattered across the floor like someone had searched through it carefully. Every gift was opened, the paper neatly folded beside each box. Nothing was missing, but everything had been handled, inspected, and put back with disturbing care. I heard a noise from the balcony again and froze. The curtains moved slightly, and I saw the sliding door standing open a few inches. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my hands slick with sweat. As I edged closer, my phone buzzed again, this time with a photo. It was a picture of me standing in my bedroom doorway. The timestamp showed it was taken less than a minute earlier. I ran for the front door, not caring about noise anymore. When I opened it, the hallway was empty, but I could hear someone running down the stairwell below. Police arrived within minutes, but they never found him. They said there were no fingerprints, no camera footage, and no signs of forced entry anywhere. I stayed with a friend that night and moved out a week later. The apartment was empty when I left, except for one gift under the tree I hadn't noticed before. It was wrapped in plain paper with no tag. Inside was the spare key I'd lost months earlier, placed neatly on top of a folded note. The note only said that Christmas was about giving, and he hoped I liked his gift. To this day, every December, I still check my door twice before decorating. If you enjoyed this story, consider liking and subscribing for more.